for around a year now, and I really enjoyed like working with different horses and learning different things. And so like my big standpoint is education. I think that's super important for everyone to know about. And so I do have paper copies as well. If anyone wants a paper copy of the presentation, there's photos on there. And so yeah. So a lot of the time I find that people know about the hoof, they know the hoof wall, they know the sole, but they don't know the little things about the foot. And when you're talking to a farrier, whether you use me or use another farrier, if they're telling you about your horse, you want to know what they're talking about so you know the most about your horse. If there is a deformity somewhere, you want to know what your farrier is talking about so you can best come up with a plan to help your horse. And so I want to first start with the white line. And so we've all heard about white line disease, but the actual part of the white line is a buffer between the wall and the sole, which unites the two together. It's a softer horn, so you have your horn as well as your sensitive structures, and the white line on the sole is a horn, which is safe to file and trim, which if you use shoes and you lift up your horse's foot, you usually see your farrier when they put on the shoe. They'll look through the holes, and if the shoe is fitting properly, you'll be able to see through the holes the white line, and that means that the shoe fits properly. And it is about 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's inside the capsule, where the white line is the attachment of insensitive and sensitive lamina, which connects the wall to the coffin bone. And as you get closer to the surface of the foot, it becomes that horny sole that we file down. The line is more of a creamy color than an actual white line. So when you are trimming the foot, you will see a white and then a cream, and the cream will be the white line. So then we have the bars of the foot, and so the bars are level with the heels and extend down above the collateral sulcus as it pebbles down to level with the sole about halfway to the point of the frog. It's longer than the sole, but not by much, and roughly 1/8 of an inch thick. It supports the hoof during loading, prevents too much vertical extension, provides traction, and aids to stopping as the bars dig into the ground. So then we have our sole, which I'm sure you guys already know what the sole is, but there is a sensitive sole as well as a horny sole. The sensitive sole is inside the hoof capsule and cannot be trimmed, and it is a thin layer of tissue below the coffin bone covered with papilla, which creates the horny hard sole that we do trim. On the earth's surface, part of the hoof that touches the earth, it is hard, dry, and brittle, and as you trim down, it gets moist and flexible, which tells you you're getting close to the sensitive sole, which we do, again, don't trim. It is thicker as it gets towards that white line. The sole is also cupped. It isn't flat on the ground, and we want that cup because as the horse moves and its foot lands on the ground during loading, it begins to flatten into the earth, which provides the traction that they need. And the sole also protects the sensitive structures in the hoof from concussion, making it a shock absorber. So then another one that most people know about is the frog. The sensitive frog, which is underneath the horny, covers the plantar cushion and is secreted in papilla, which creates the horny frog, which is what we can feel. The horny frog is a soft horn with a rubbery feel to it, and it sheds twice a year. A lot of the time, if you look at farriers from like the 80s and the 90s, they like to trim it to make it look really clean. But in recent studies, they find that we want to trim it minimally, just enough to prevent overgrowth, because if you cut too much of the frog, it can actually interfere with the structures and interfere with movement. Because the frog provides circulation for better blood flow during loading phase, and it also gives more traction. It allows the hoof capsule to expand and contract during weight bearing. So our heel bolts are rounded areas at the back of the foot, one at each heel, and it is where the frog meets the skin. It is a soft worn tissue. Inside holds connective tissues, making it springy to aid in movement. It is delicate and prone to injury during concussion, such as overreaching, and we absolutely do not trim down the heel bolts. So our wall, we should know what the wall is, and the wall grows down at equal rate all the way around and is nourished by coronary band, periopal, and earth surface and moist ground. It's strong and hard, but capable of expanding, and must be carefully trimmed on a 4-week rotation. Oftentimes this is pushed to what we know as the 6-week rotation, but this is due to military history. Many years ago, they started trimming horses on a 6-week schedule instead of 4-week schedule to save money, because oftentimes the horses didn't live 6 weeks. But when you push it to 6 weeks, as the hoof grows, it changes the angle of the foot. And so that's why a lot of modern farriers are trying to push it back to that 4-week rotation. So the periopal is a soft horn secreted from the periopic ring, which is covering the coronary band. It hardens after exposure, creating a protective covering of wall and prevents evaporation of hoof moisture. For our coronary band, the coronary band is a continuation of skin joining with the hoof wall. It covers the lower rear portions of lateral cartilages, and it's very sensitive if cut. A lot of the time, farriers will rasp on the outside of the foot to make a nice cleaner look, but you have to make sure not to get too close to the coronary band as it scars really easily. And it is covered with papilla that secretes down to make horny tissues of wall. Some other important things to consider within the structures of the hoof capsule that I don't want to delve too much into today, as it is a lot, but a lot of times we have our short pastern, which is P2, the middle phalanx, as well as the coffin bone, P3, the distal phalanx, and our navicular bone. So you'll notice I didn't say P1, so P1 is the long pastern that is just above the hoof, and then P2 just barely comes into that hoof, and P3, the coffin bone, is all the way in that foot, and then we have our navicular, which is just behind the coffin bone. A lot of the times you'll also hear farriers talk about the deep digital flexor tendon, and when there's strain on that, that is what causes things like navicular syndrome or founder, when that tendon tightens up. So the last thing I want to talk about is, if you look at the front of the foot on the ground, your farrier will often talk about the toe, the heel, and the quarters. So the toe is the front portion of that foot, and then you have the quarters on each side, and your heel on that back side on each part of the foot. And a lot of the times I'll also say the heel quarters, which is favoring towards the heel but still in the quarters, and the toe quarters, which is favoring towards the toe but still in the quarters. And so yeah, that is the anatomy of the hoof. If anyone wants a physical copy, again, I printed out extra if you would like to take one. So thank you. Woo!